Good morning. This is Michael, and welcome to Mornings with Michael, brought to you for information and educational purposes only, and sometimes entertainment. So it is up to you to do your own due diligence. We provide the ideas, and it's for you to cement them through. So let's get on with our show. Take a look at what's happening to our heat map. In education today, we're going to talk a little bit about an 8-week hold rule. This is one of the stocks jumping today. Zebra Technologies gapped up. Their earnings were down 64%. But let's take a look at what's happening to our dollar today. But before we do that, I guess I did not have our S&P heat map on. So I just put it on. And we can share. There we go. Microsoft's pulling back a little bit, tightening the coil, I like to say. When stocks pull back, it's kind of like a coil you step on. When you take your foot off of that coil, it explodes higher. So we'll just have to see. There's some coils that have exploded today, and I'm going to show them a little later. Meta is up. Of the big cap techs is up. Nvidia is down. Looks like most of the other ones are down. Not sure about Netflix. Netflix had a big jump yesterday. Tesla is up 5% today. Rivian is up. So our two spreads in that are benefiting. Energy is up today. We put on PBR yesterday and FRO, and they're both up today. So we put up them on as spreads. Looks like healthcare is doing pretty well today. So that's that. And if you don't like the throws of these things bouncing around, and when they really sell off, you don't know when that's going to happen. Recommend that 85 to 90% of people should be in an annuity. Annuity never loses. This type of annuity never loses money. Goes up, does not come down. And while the index investing bobs and weaves, this continues to go up. Some annuities with bonuses. So index investing has an average of 7.6%, whereas annuity average growth is 12.6%. So about a 5% per year difference. And there's that. Let me just share our screen here, go back to our charts. Let's look at our dollar index. The dollar is falling and gaps down. It is at its high for the day. It's down about 8 cents. Silver gaps up on that news, up 2.5%. We'll just have to see if it fills that gap later. Gold gaps up as well. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum gaps up. It is on its high. Bitcoin is bumping its head, I guess. But Bitcoin is about 25. It went up to 52,000 and then it's pulled back to 51,000. So we did have somebody said it's going to go up to 60,000 and then it's going to retrace to 44,000. So 44,000 after the halving happens in April. So we'll have to look out for that. Look at our copper stock gaps up. It's on its high for the day. Southern Copper gaps up as well and is on its high as well. FCX really looks like all these metals, you really got to buy them on severe pullbacks. Vale is down slightly. Rio is up slightly, and BHP initially sold off, and now it is fighting back to get to its 200-day moving average. Take a look at our bond yields. They're gapping down and they're fighting back. Still at 4.24% on the 10-year, 20-year is down slightly, and it's bouncing off its 200-day. Take a look at the VIX. VIX sold off initially, but it is up slightly right now. It's hanging right around this 15 area. So whether it jumps to 18, 1812 or not, we'll just have to watch. Kind of looks like a coiled spring. Maybe it's building a cup handle here. S&P 500. Back above 500, up 0.56%. The equal weight S&P gaps up, goes above 160, is up over 1%. That's good if this is broadening out. The NASDAQ is just kind of even, up 0.33. And the equal weight, excuse me, I've got a little frog on my throat. Speaking of frog, we'll look at frog a little later as well. 0.74% IWM. Back above 200 with a retreat on the bond yields. That's pretty impressive. Gap up. And the Dow Jones gapping up as well above all of its major trend lines. So let's take a look at 3% up. Well, super microcomputer is just simply amazing. It's getting near 1,000. It has gone, it has tripled since the CEO came out after hours when the stock was at 309. Said we're going to have significant more earnings than people are estimating. And it just keeps going. He said this is just the beginning. We're going to have many more quarters like this. So we'll move on to CRISPR Therapeutics. Big up. Their earnings are in 5 days. ARM Holdings. We took off the short on our 125, 130, and now it's above 130. We have some other and a couple other accounts we may need to roll up to the next level. And speaking of frog, which we have in one of our other accounts, it's up 30% for the day. On the earnings, increased 375% of 52.49%. All of your major growth is going to be found in recent IPOs. And this is a recent IPOs from the 2020 era. Informatica, AI-powered platform, gapping up on 33% earnings increase. Shake Shack is up big, up about 24%. Airbnb and my other family's account added to this. Had a little bit of pullback on earnings, and now it's moving up. TripAdvisor gapped up on earnings, and now it just continues up another 10%. AppLovin, we had naked call options on this one. I just had a strong feeling. I added one call option when it had this pullback here, or no, it was right over here, and then it bounced back, and it is up 20%. Manulife Financial is up 9%. Interdigital is up 9% on earnings of 31%. Looks like they're breaking out today. This could be a buy right now. And Stellantis, I think this is what gave a big boost. I'm not sure what here's their earnings. Not as bad as everyone expected, but it was a negative earnings surprise, but they're gapping up today. So without further ado, let's bring up our news. See what we got for the news for today. There's a bunch of earnings before the bell. Applied Materials is after the bell, one of the notable ones in semiconductors. The bull bear spread in American Association of Individual Investors, AAII, weekly survey was 15.4 versus 26.4 last week. Bulls fall to 42.2 from 49%. Neutrals rise to 31.1 from 28.4, and bears rise to 26.8 to 22.6. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway disclosed in an SEC filing its holdings as of December 31st. Berkshire exited 4 positions during the fourth quarter, including size of previous positions. D.R. Horton, which is kind of flat there. Markel Group, Stone Company, this is a Brazilian company, and Globe Life. Berkshire increased its stake in 3 holdings, including the size of previous positions. Really believes in the oil sector at the moment. Chevron, Sirius is up slightly today, and Occidental, which he has the biggest stake in all of the oil positions, and that's moving up pretty strong today. Their earnings came at a negative 54%. I guess maybe the forward guidance came out stronger. Japan's economy unexpectedly contracted again in October-December period. Provisional government data showed Thursday provisional gross domestic product contracted 0.4% in quarter 4 after contracting 2.9% in the July to September period. This is way below the median estimate of 1.4 growth for Japan. And on to our consumer news. New Skin cuts quarterly dividend to 6 cents from 39 cents. Quarter 4 EPS 37 cents versus estimate of 28 cents. And it looks like they're down 23% on that news. TripAdvisor, we looked at earlier, quarter 4 EPS 38 cents versus estimate of 22 cents. And they continue moving. Wyndham Hotels, quarter 4 EPS 91 cents versus 90 cents. Initially sold off, and then they came back. 26% earnings increase over the previous year's quarter. Yeti, Quarter four adjusted EPS 90 cents versus 96 cents. And of course, they drop about 15% on that news. They're 15% earnings year over year quarter. Energy. John Deere and Company, quarter one EPS $6.23 versus $5.21. That was negative from 5% from the previous year's quarter, and they're selling off on that news. Airbus posted sharply higher revenue and operating profit for 2023, raised its dividend and predicted further growth this year on the back of strong demand for engine services. Stock is off about 50.5%. I was going to say 50 cents, it's actually 20 cents. And Terrell Resources authorized a $500 million share repurchase program. Quarter four adjusted EPS 24 cents versus 21 cents. And people cheered that news, a gap up and near its high for the day. Cleveland Cliffs said it would be definitely idling its trip plate production plant located in Weirton, West Virginia in April 2024. We looked at Occidental Petroleum, quarter four adjusted EPS 74 cents versus 71 cents, moving big up on that. And Warrior Met Coal, quarter four adjusted EBITDA 163.7 million versus estimate of 199.27. And yes, it continues its downturn on that. On to financials. Arch Capital Group. Initially moved up higher, 0.6%. It's near its low. Quarter four adjusted EPS 249 versus 203. Capital One Financials said January net chain charge-offs were $5.71% versus 3.81% year over year, and delinquencies 4.78 versus 3.65 year over year, and they rise slightly, 0.46%. Discover Financial Services said January credit card delinquency rate 1.69 versus 1.59 at December 2023, and in January credit card charge-offs 2.03 at January 24 end versus 1.98 in December. So Discover Financial Services is moving up slightly. Equinix, quarter four adjusted EPS $2.40 versus $2.17. Quarter four operating income $346.4 million versus $336.7 million. And they are jumping about 5.5% on that news. Nerd Wallet, for all you nerds out there. Quarter four adjusted EBITDA 29.3 million on revenues of 133.7 million, and it is selling off on this news. It did bounce from the 50-day moving average, which was encouraging. On to healthcare, we did miss something in financials, so let's take a look at Wells Fargo. Big move in Wells Fargo today as the OCC removed everything from their scandal of setting up fake accounts. So it's up 6.58%. This people were thrilled at this, and it's got massive volume. So a lot of professional money management is definitely moving into this at this stage. And now we can move back to healthcare. Adaptive Biotechnologies, quarter four EPS 48 cents loss versus 33-cent loss, and it's still moving up on that news. Maybe it's better than they expected, up 1.14%. This looks pretty close to a penny stock. Prime Medicine, 19.2 share spot secondary, priced at $6.25. Wow. And it's up 15.22% on this news. You don't normally see that. Ventas, quarter four, normalized FFO a share, 76 cents versus 75 cents, and it sells off on this pretty strongly, down 3%. It's near as high though for the day. On industrials and materials, Albemarle, quarter four adjusted EPS $5.19 versus $1.01. So they do a lot of finding lithium. So this is up 4.37%. Question is this a bottoming base down here or not? Potential for that to be happening. CF Industries, quarter four EPS $1.44 versus $1.57. Interesting, it's going up slightly on that news. That's quite a big miss. I guess they were expecting worse times. Rollins in the trucking area. Quarter four EPS 95 cents versus 77 cents. And people are expecting more than a 24% earnings gain, and it is gapping down and near its low for the day. Royal Gold, quarter four EPS 95 cents versus estimate 77 cents. We got a gap up 4.5% today. Summit Materials, quarter four EPS 31 cents versus estimate 26 cents on revenues of 613.133 million. On to technology, media, and telecom. Cisco, quarter two adjusted EPS 87 cents versus 84 cents, and we got a sell-off. They wanted a lot more from Cisco. It was down a lot harder earlier, and it's fighting back here. App loving. I'm just loving you, App. Gap up nearly 21%. Altus, quarter four adjusted EBITDA 903.3 million versus 892 million, and this penny stock is moving up about 4%. Quarter four adjusted EPS on Fastly, 1 cent versus estimate of 2 cent loss, and this still wasn't good enough for them, down 30%. HubSpot, company I used to own, great CRM, quarter four EPS $1.76 versus $1.55. People were looking for a little bit stronger. Earnings are up close to 60%. Informatica, quarter four adjusted operating income 161.9 million versus 141.54 million estimate. And yes, they are jumping about close to 14%. And frog, with a frog in my throat from, I guess, seasonal allergies. Quarter four EPS 19 cents versus 12 cents. Quarter four revenues 97.3 million versus 93.04 million. 375 earnings gain over quarter last year, up 52%. Pegasystems, quarter four adjusted EPS $1.61 versus $1. And yes, Pegasystems is pegging much higher, 33% higher, in fact. We looked at Supermicro before. It indicated with a buy rating and a price target of 1,040. Saying the provider of server and storage solutions will be a beneficiary of AI-driven demand and growth, and believes the market for AI servers is much larger than factored into the street models. Twilio, quarter four adjusted EPS 86 cents versus 58 cents. People were expecting much more, I guess, than 291% earnings growth, as it is down 15%. And finally, we look at Upwork. Upwork, quarter four revenues 183 0.9 million versus estimate of 178.16 million. And Upwork is not going up, they're going down. They're down close to 7%, and that's our news for today. And let's continue with our look. What's up 5%? With 100% growth, the Airbnb, App 11 we looked at, Appian is up 11, looks like about 11%. Earnings up 121%. Looked at Taro earlier. Anarix, nationwide dispatch network of mobile, they're up 16.5%. They're near its high for the day on 105% earnings growth. You could just kind of see professional money management growing their stake here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days before earnings. Bridge Biopharma continues its move. It's gapping up here. Blueprint Medicines, earnings were flat, but it's up over 11% today. Richard Ellis, CB Richard Ellis, gapping up today, up 9% and a 4% earnings increase. Cognix is up 7% today, even though the earnings were down 59%, greater than what people were expecting. Crocs in the footwear area. Crocs gaps up and is near its high. Well, let's take a look at some of the others in that category. Decker gapped up on their earnings. And interesting, they came right below the gap there, and now they're coming back up. Who else? I guess we got Nike in there. Take a look at Nike. Nike is up 1.77%, up slightly. We got Skechers, which kind of sold off on its earnings. It is gapping up today. So it's up 1.07, and this is something we had a spread. We took off the short side of the spread because it was at 30. We put it on at, I believe it was 27. Maybe it was 30, 27 to 31. And it is up to 32 today. So big move. We put it on right over here when we saw that move up. I believe it was, or it may have been this day. It was when it was below 27.50 anyway. That's when we put on the long side 27. We like that one. Continuing with our list, we looked at CRISPR, Digital World. We took off the short side as it hit 50. It is on its low for the day, but a big gap up today. Sorry, it took off half of them, but I got a little impatient with it. JFrog. We looked at a lot of these in earnings. LYFT continues to lift, up another 16% today. So it's up 32% yesterday. Now it's up another 16.5% today. Got Children's Place in here. Sandy Spring Bank Corp, Reliance Steel in the metals area, gapping up 11%. Tokyo Electronics, gapping up. They had gapped up 2 days ago, I guess 3 days ago, and Now they're gapping up again, up 6.4%. And that's what's up 10% on 200% increase in volume. There's 9 items. We looked at Informatica, we looked at LYFT, Pegasystems, we didn't look at Children's Place. Children's Place was much higher earlier and then sold off. Feel sorry for those people that bought up here and now it's way down. But it is up 61% today. So that's kind of the story there. And so that's kind of where professional money managers are moving today. So let's take a look at LYFT. It's just one example, but the rule is anytime a stock is up 20% or more in 1 to 3 weeks, this is a rule from William O'Neill, the founder of Investors Business Daily and the company that created MarketSmith, the charts that I'm using right now. Huge person that brought down how to invest in simple terms. But he found that anything that was up 20% or more in 1 to 3 weeks went on to be one of the greatest winners in the stock market. So that's why he created this 8-week hold rule. So you have to hold this stock that is up more than 20%. LYFT is one, Frog is another. 8 weeks or more. Now, if I would have listened, I made a mistake with this. I listened to too many people on network that were selling out, but would have been much smarter to ignore that. Take a look at SMCI. This is definitely up more than 20%. And look at this move. It has tripled. Now, not every one that is up 20% is going to triple, but you do hold it for 8 weeks and then reevaluate after that end of the 8 weeks. Now, some people are asking me, what about sale? Now, if it isn't up 20% over the first 3 weeks, we recommend at 20 to 25%, you take a quarter to a third off. If it goes up another 10%, take another quarter to another third off and let the rest ride. This way you paid for your trade. If it comes down, you don't have a psychological beating that will affect your trading much longer than this one simple trade. And this is the way we believe you should manage your trades. So that is that. Now let's go along and take a look at we have to make a decision. We have app in, I guess we have to make a decision by March. This is definitely an 8-week hold rule item. So Meta is definitely an 8-week hold rule as long as it holds the bottom of the gap up that we talked about. And Meta is up strong today, up a little close to 3%. This is one of our core holdings. We started talking about Meta around the 295 to 300 and said people keep buying this, wanted to go up to 300 while the other big cap techs were trending down. And we said once the bond yields dropped off, this was going to soar. And it went up to 330, had a little bit of a pullback, then went up to 342, another little pullback to the 50-day moving average where you could have added, and then it went up to 390. We made the unfortunate of closing both the short at 390 and the shares, 200 shares, but we did buy an option, 395, 410, And when it soared after hours, we bought 50 shares, and then we closed the 410 short at 6:30 in the morning, and then we added 15 more shares when it had this little bit of a pullback. So we're at 165 shares with Meta. This is Grayscale in Roth IRA. As I mentioned, we bought this at 30 and we kept it on the downturn. In some ways, I guess if we had kept all of it, we'd be sitting pretty, but that we wanted to save our account, and it is up quite a bit. So yeah, most of the Roth IRA we have in our Bitcoin except for LYFT. So let's take a look at the regular account. We have GitLab, another core holding. We bought over here an option, felt it was going to go up on earnings, and it did. So it gapped up. We bought the option at 55, gapped up, and it hasn't really looked back since. Had a little bit of a pullback here, close to the 55, but it did not come lower than the gap up. So we kept it, and it bounced again off of the 20-day moving average. Was an area I could have added, I just chose not to. MicroStrategy, a little over a week ago, we put on trade at 493 and option at 495 and option for 2-day option, and then we just let it go into the trade. Was as high as over 750 today, but it is looks like it's trying to fill the gap. We'll just kind of continue to watch that. We have 110 shares there. Kava, our restaurant, bought this when it came up here to 32. We bought 1,000 shares, kind of moved along, came out with a story about a salad company was going to have drive-through service, added 600 shares here, and it moved up. Sold off a little this day, so on this day I sold 600 shares. And then when it came down here right around 47, I sold the other 1,000. Then I watched if it broke 46.19. I was watching the 5-minute bar. I would add, so I put on 10 options for ability to buy 1,000 shares at 46, and at 46.19, 46.20, I bought 500 shares. So we have 500 shares with the option to buy another 1,000 at 46 with the stock around 45. Earnings are in 12 days, so we'll watch that as well. So that's kind of the story with Kava. Elf Beauty, talked about this in the show right around 120. The analyst was really saying this is definitely going to go at least to 155, I believe he said at the time. Shared this with everybody that I was buying the options at 120, and I let the option exercise as it continued to go up. Pull back to 131.50, could have added on a bounce, chose not to. Went up to 164, pull back. I bought the 160 options, 2 of them. Pull back even more. I bought the 152, 155 options and let them just buy the shares. And then right on earnings, it went up to 174, and they decided to sell the 260 options and $4,000 profit. And then after hours, I bought at 100 67, 100 shares, and another at 177 at 50. Next day, as a pullback, I realized that 50 shares was probably a little too much excitement on my part, so I closed at 50 shares. And we have 700 shares of LYFT Beauty right now. They crushed their numbers at 54%. They really are doing well in the cosmetic area, so we continue to hold those. Just gonna check. Zscaler. There's another core holding. We did take a little bit of a profit. We had 200 shares. So we put two options after we missed crowd. Zscaler, we put it at 177, let them exercise right around here. And then right around here, we sold 50 shares and then pulled back a little bit. We sold another 50, came up here. And then on the news of a major player resigning from the company, we added a 228 at $230 option and then a $250 option. So we got those. We added that in one of the other accounts that we have as well. So this is another core holding. Looks like it's acting okay. And then we go to ESTC, recent ad. We added this at 119, 120, 122. And then we have some options in one of the other accounts that we are monitoring. And we got a gap up here today of nearly 5%. So it's definitely in the money. Going to continue to hold this. Their earnings are in 15 days, so we'll continue to watch that. On earnings day, if the stock is down, we'll definitely take some profit for protection or put on a put if it's really into the money. If it's up on that day, then it seems like the stock does well on its earnings. So 2024 earnings are supposed to be up 353%, 2025 up another 35%. Some of the other companies that we're just kind of watching, Square, we have some options in Square at 68, so it's in the money right now. Rivian, I have forgotten what the spread we have on Rivian. So we have 15.5 to 20 on Rivian. It's in the money right now. It did pull back the other day, and we just decided to hold on to it. But we did. Got Tesla when it was 184, popped up there. We put on a 190, 200, had a pullback. We just decided to sit tight. We have Celsius. You take a look at the spread that we have on Celsius. I believe we rolled over some and then we closed. So we have a 56, actually we rolled it over. We had a 56.62 and we rolled the 56.62 to 62.67, and then we closed half of the trade. So we had 8, and now we have 4 at a naked option, which up 131%. Celsius was a previous leader, and the energy drinks or workout drinks. Let's see, you can just take a look. This is a weekly. As we can see, they moved up way up here. They had a pullback. Looked like they had a 2-for-1 stock split, and now it looks like they're getting close to breaking out there. VRT put this on because it seemed like they were pretty close to the same category as super microcomputer. They put that on trade right over here. I think it was like 55.62, and we took off the 62 yesterday. It is pulling back to the 10-day line here, and it bounced off of the 10-day line. So we'll just continue to, and it previously bounced off of the 20-day on the market sell-off the other day. Let's see what else of note. We put on some AMD as we felt it was in the tight area, 180, 185. So the bigger cap tech stocks are drifting or pulling back a little bit today, or the small caps are kind of leading. But we did put what did I say? On AMD, we put on a 180 March 25th, March 15th, 2024, 180, 185. And then we have PBR and ARM. We'll just take a look at those. ARM was 125, 130. That was 131. So we'll have to do a little something with that. I believe I had the naked call in my account, and another family account have a 125, 130. And PBR, we put on spread on PBR. Oh, there's a naked call, 15 of those naked calls at 18. It's up about 3% today. And finally, we're going to take a look at Frontline. They have a pretty good dividend. Let's see their dividend. If I can locate it here, it's 12% yield. Provides tanker transportation services. Looks like they're breaking out of a long kind of consolidation. You could call it a cup. It's moved kind of all over the place, but I think this is positive. We can look at the weekly chart here to look at some of the other companies in its sector. TK Tankers. TK, this is a cheaper version. Did had a strong breakout, pulled back. Now it's trying to get above its moving averages, pull back close to the 50-day, where you get a lot of support from professional money managers. And TK Tankers, a little more expensive, but similar story, similar chart patterns. So this is why we went with Front. A couple of others in this same area. Torm in the UK. Looks like it's kind of bouncing after a little bit of a pullback to the 10 and 20-day moving average. But that is our show for today. This is Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. Happy Thursday to everybody. Hope you have a great day. Go out there and keep working on your goals and your activities. And if you have any financial goals or activities we can help you with, please send us a comment. Mornings with Michael is for information and educational purposes, and sometimes entertainment. Um, so that is our show. It's up to you to do your own due diligence. Go out there and make a difference.